Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!"
American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com. Hey, folks, how you doing? Hey, this is American Liberty Radio Podcast. This is Wayne S. Pierce on this 18th of May, 2017. How are ya? Oh, my. For a second there, I sounded like Alex Jones. For a second. Anyway. Hey, I put up an interesting question on my Facebook page, Wayne S. Pierce. That's where you can find me. Also, American Liberty Radio Podcasts. And I want to say this because there was I didn't catch the link and I didn't catch the article fast enough before my fingers decided to move on to something else on my cell phone. And I was looking at a Facebook post and kept flipping through the Facebook app and everything, and I didn't catch it fast enough and tried to go back, tried to find it, couldn't find it. You know how that is, right? Coffee is so good. Got a serious question for you. Why do schools have dress codes? Kind of curious. It's just a curious question there. Why do schools have dress codes? Now, I understand there's two sides to this whole, thing, this whole debate that people have been having for years and years and years. I myself personally had stepchildren at one point. High school age, that kind of thing. And from my particular perspective, having been a child myself at one point, I can tell you that children will rebel, okay? And I look at the level of that rebellion because you know darn well when the parents start putting the screws to the children and start making the rules and this is how it's going to be and blah blah blah, the kids are going to go, screw you, I'm going to do what I want, but I'm going to try to get away with it and not let you know what's going on. We've done it, okay? We've all done it. And I know for a fact there is I don't want to pull out all my files and everything. I know for a fact that children are going to rebel. You know it. That's just part of it. We did it. That was just, a phase we were going through. But why do schools have dress codes? Well, I mean, don't, no. I don't want the bullcrap cookie cutter explanation of why. I don't care what side of the issue you're on. I don't care because I've heard all of it from every perspective. I'm asking the basic question. Why do schools have dress codes? I can give you a list of all the excuses and all the reasons and but I won't, because that's boring. Here's what I say. Here's my thought. And this is only one part. This is only one part of the debate. It's not the whole thing. It's only one part of the debate. And it's my perspective. Okay? My thought is this. It's inappropriate for any school to dictate to students what is appropriate clothing to wear. Considering that any school is first violating the students' First Amendment rights, and second, schools are doing a piss poor job at educating, might be or should be a much larger concern than what a student is wearing. Appropriate clothing and how it is worn falls squarely on the parents, who are the sole providers of their children. Unless I missed seeing the memo from the federal government or the school board where it says that schools have the role of parents, schools should stop dictating to anyone what is appropriate or not. And, to add to this, parents need to understand that when your children go to school, they're being indoctrinated with left-wing, right-wing bullshit. This is something to consider, isn't it? Well, the replies... The replies are all over the board. And it is apparent, no pun intended, it is apparent, A-P-P-A-R-E-N-T, it is apparent that people cannot even answer the basic question. I had somebody just post something here that said, I don't want to say that I see your point. I do want to say that I see your point on this, though, and part of me does agree. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of clothing should have nothing to do with education. In an indirect way. In an indirect way, I know for a fact that how the students act at school is in direct correlation with how they are educated. Now, why do I say that? Because let me remind you, folks out there, you were once children yourself. You were once really hormonally led teenagers full of angst and rebellion against your parents. Okay? Let me remind you of that fact. Okay? Well, my parents never let me. Yeah, your parents never let you. That's one aspect of the argument as well. The other aspect is the fact that parents have this, and over time, now I'm going to talk about this a little bit in this first segment. Over time, parents have done more, worked more to keep a roof over the child's head. Your mom and dad probably did that. You're doing that with your kids. You're doing more because you want your children to have more. I completely understand that. Okay? Completely, right? Your children's interests are the last thing on your list. The next to the last thing on your list is your children's education. The first thing on your child's list is their health and safety. Don't you think that should apply to the mental capacity of your children? Don't you think that should apply to the comfortable should that not apply to how comfortable you want your children? Should that not apply to the fact that when you send your children off to school, you are unaware of the fact that they are ditching the clothes they put on in the morning, changing into something less appropriate, and sneaking out the back of the school? Yes, parents, I know exactly what happens. Why? Because I was the guy at the back of the school waiting for his girlfriend to come out the back of the school so we can go drive around town. Yes, folks. So does the dress code make a difference? Does the inappropriateness of what your daughter or son wears to school matter? Overall, in the whole aspect of the education that your children should be getting from that trusted educational institute in your city. When the government, the school board, the city, the council, the city council, the county board of supervisors, the board of education, when they are more concerned about what your children wear, that tells me one thing. They can give one rip about their education. And when you pull it all apart and examine each and every section of what I'm talking about, and even more that you can find, you're going to find that it's not the education of your children that is important to them. And I've said it in there. It's the indoctrination of left-wing, right-wing political philosophy that is more important. Here, the reason why I say this, and I ask that question to lead into this. I'm watching a show on Netflix, and it's, I don't know how to describe this particular show. Coffee, love it, except to say that it's 1984 on steroids. That it's Animal Farm on antidepressants. I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong analogy. I have no idea. It is one of the strangest, if not more enlightening shows that I've seen on Netflix. And this show really shows the bottom line of what happens when a group of people are concentrated into one area with an enemy that is outside of that area. And the leaders of this group are trying to keep all of that negative stuff away and out of that area. And all the little tiny itty bitty symbolisms, if you are not aware of how to look for symbols in TV shows, I would suggest you start studying what symbols mean. But all the symbolism in this show, from my perspective, is a telltale sign of what is to come and what is currently happening in our system right now. I'm talking about the show Wayward Pines. I watched this show. It's the acting is quite good in this show. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but look on Netflix, Wayward Pines. I'm not a spoiler, so I'm not going to tell you what the show's about, but go check it out. But there's other shows like that that have been on television that have revealed certain things that we sit back and we're going, oh, that can't be true. That segues me back into education. That cannot be true. Why? Because I was never told that it was. Why? Because our teacher never said that it was true. Why? Because I think you can fill in the blanks and get my point. But when you examine everything around us, when you put yourself in a position, to look at everything. I'm talking everything. What part of everything don't you understand? When you look at everything from how your kids dress, how your kids talk, how your kids react to certain things, not that they're acting out on anything, based on anything, how they react to certain things, that kind of tells me, as a former step-parent, I can say this, that tells me that the child is not, number one, not paying attention to you at all because they're in the act of rebellion. And no, they're not acting out. They are rebelling against authority figure right there. Why? That's a good question. It's not you, parents. It's not you. So don't blame yourself for the inadequacies of your children. Okay? It's not you. All right? You're doing your best. You're working. You're providing. It's not you. But yet, why aren't you home long enough to hug your children and tell them that you love them, to offer them your expertise in certain things, to help them with their interest in certain things? Their act of rebellion is not based on what you do. When did it become appropriate to dictate to anyone of the age of consent, whatever it is in your state? When did it become appropriate to dictate to that person that they should or should not do something? And when did it become appropriate to react to what was not done? Let me break that down in the most simplest way possible. You cannot, as a parent, fault yourself for doing the things you do. You cannot, no, don't do that. That shows that you're vulnerable. And in that, your children are not stupid. They will see it and they will use it to their advantage. You saw it when you were holding them in your arms. You saw this. You saw that they pushed your buttons. Now, let me segue from there back to why do schools have dress codes? Because from my other perspective that I have on this, it is because they want everyone to be the same, to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to find your vulnerability, to work on that vulnerability, to grab that vulnerability within you, to make you to make you, to force you, to dictate to you that the state has power over your children. Well, our teacher, our principal, our vice principal, they said that we should do this because it's appropriate for our education. Do you see the indoctrination now? Now, granted, not all schools are like this. But the vast majority of the governmental indoctrination institutes that are out there, including private Christian schools, are doing this. Now, why do I say that? What proof do I have? Well, parents, you see the proof right in front of you. Now, how are you going to do this? Now, in the last 10 years or so, 15 years or so, because of the way schools are, and because of the way school districts are, and because of how the whole district has been split up here, there, everywhere, and everything is going to hell in a handbasket as far as education is concerned, more and more parents, you look at the statistics in the last 15 years of parents pulling out, or guardians, parents or guardians, pulling out their children out of public and private school and homeschooling them. Look at the statistics. Why is that, folks? Does it have anything to do or everything to do with the dress code? No, the dress code is the first line of attack to your freedoms and your parental skills. Because what they're saying, moms and dads, is they're saying your daughter and your son is not dressed the way we want them to be dressed to, as they would put it, not be a distraction to the other students. I put that in air quotes. Now, I'm not arguing this point, but let me say that in certain circumstances, to certain degrees, dress codes are fine. But in a very small percentage of schools. Very small. I'm talking less than 5%. Now you look at the bigger cities. Let's go rural and metropolis. Let's go rural and the metropolis cities. Okay, rural cities, not so much into the whole, look like everybody else type of dress code. They're pretty lenient in some cases, and that's where I'm talking, less than 5%. So that's, out there. So we know this. We understand it. We have, it's there. There it is. It's there. We see this. You go to the metropolis cities, go to the big cities, and you see that the schools there have a very strict dress code in some of their schools, from junior high to high school. But you look at the statistics about the education, and I'm talking specifically reading, writing, arithmetic, history, social studies, all of that, just the basics that you need. You look at the scores from the rural and metropolis areas, and you look at who is getting better educated and who, along those same lines, who is being indoctrinated with government bullcrap. Look at the statistics. I don't give one crap what you're wearing. Look at the statistics. But it does play a part. I myself personally, I don't care. You can dress in shorts. Doesn't bother me. What I'm saying is when students are forced to conform. Dress codes, hair, got to do this, got to do that. Turn your bag in, whatever, When the students are forced to conform, as opposed to students that aren't, or, let me also go here, students that are homeschooled, you look at the number and the statistics of the aptitude scores of these students. Is it 20/80? 20 being very educated kids in the rural areas, suburban areas, to the 80% of the students in the suburban and rural areas to the 20% of the well-educated students in the metropolitan areas? Does it have anything to do with dress codes? Does it have anything to do with what they wear? No. It has everything to do with the system of education that is currently within our society. It has everything to do with the indoctrination of our students, of our children, to conform to a system that is much like 1984 or Fahrenheit 451. Period. Why do schools have a dress code? Some parents may disagree with me. Some parents may disagree with me. Okay? Some people who are not parents may disagree with me. All I encourage you to do is ask the question and do the research and investigate. That's all. I have. But remember one little crucial element in all of this as well, parents. You were once children yourself. You were once teenagers filled with angst and acted out in rebellion against authority. Remember? So that is something to think about. Again, the basic question is, why do schools have dress codes? I'm not talking about fill in the blanks, folks. It's just a basic question. Why do schools have dress codes? That's all I'm asking. I'm giving you my thoughts and my perspective and my opinion about it. That's all. Am I right? Am I wrong? Neither one. It's just a thought. I'll be back right after this. Don't go away, folks. This is American Liberty Radio Network. AmericanLibertyRadio.com. You know what you want. You want the truth. You want the facts. Without all the BS. American Liberty Radio Network. AmericanLibertyRadio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Distorted Reality. I am your host, Nick Tucker, and I welcome you to the broadcast
Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker. DistortedReality.podbean.com and Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker on American Liberty Radio Network.
There's a show that's not afraid to ask questions no one else will ask. Not afraid to say
what no one else will say.
Friday nights at 7 p.m. Listen to Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie, where no topic is off limits. Conspiracy theories, paranormal activities, hoaxes, the unexplained. It's what we talk about. Question everything. Trust no one. Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie. Friday at 7 p.m. on the KCOR Digital Radio Network out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hey, folks, welcome back. This is American Liberty Radio Network right here on Spreaker.com. Hey, for all your podcasting, live broadcasting needs, go to Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com. And also, if you want some intros, outros, and other liners and bumpers, go to musicradiocreative.com for all of your needs. Thank you very much. Hey, folks, speaking of which, I do voiceovers, I do ads, I do other things as well. I'm currently writing some radio plays. Yes, I do that at New West Radio Theater for my other company. Folks, this is my day job. Okay? Honestly, this is what I do. I spend 2 to 3 to 4 hours in the studio sometimes. And yeah, it's some work, folks, but it's fun, and I hope that I encourage you to be aware of what's going on in our society today. Folks, if you need any voiceover work done, please contact me at American Liberty Radio at USA.com. American Liberty Radio at USA.com. You like that radio voice right there? Hi, folks. Yeah, I love it, folks. It's great. So if you need something done, just ask me. Hey, man. Yeah, I need to get paid for it, too, so remember that, all right? I've had some people already, can you do this? You going to pay me? Oh, I got to pay you? Well, yeah. I mean, I don't do it for free. Sometimes I do. I have some really good friends that I do it for, and so there are some exceptions that I will make. Yes, okay. I will make some exceptions. But it is my day job, folks. This is what I do. American Liberty Radio Network is a network that I created in 2009, 2010 to share with you all the truth with the facts without all the BS. And New West Radio Productions is my radio theater. Yes, New West Radio Theater, New West Radio Productions is my other side project. So anyway. Yes, so if you have any questions whatsoever, I will answer them no matter what the question is. Hey, if I don't know, folks, I'll just tell you I don't know. It's that simple. You can email me at American Liberty Radio at USA.com. American Liberty Radio at USA.com. Hey, go check out a friend of mine, Mr. Tom Slick, over at Radio Rock 92.6 The Blitz. Yeah, go listen to The Morning Brew with Tom Slick over at Radio Rock 92.6 The Blitz. Go to 926theblitz.rocks. That's ROCKS. 926theblitz.rocks. Go check out him and all the other hosts on that network. There we go. Yeah. Awesome. If you're an independent music person, you're an independent author, you're an independent filmmaker, 926theblitz.rocks is your place to go. Tell him Wayne Pierce over at American Liberty Radio Network sent you. Thank you very much. You might want to go check out another friend of mine, Mr. Brian Lang, over at Live Truth Radio and TV at livetruthradio.com. ALRN.com. Go check him out as well. And obviously, well, not obviously, but please go check out another colleague of mine in the independent alternative media, and that is Mr. John Christopher J-Man Collins over at thetruthwar.net. Yeah, go check him out. Tell him I sent you. Folks, it is the 18th of May, 2017. We got a lot to talk about. Yesterday was an expanded podcast to 2 hours. Hey, I just may do that again today. Not sure. It all depends. Really depends on me not ranting. That's what it depends on, folks. Actually, no, I joke. I don't rant that much. I have very passionate opinions. You like that? Very passionate opinions. Yes. It is interesting to see what is going on in our society today, because we have, and I know this from my own personal observation of things going on around us. I really sense some animosity in some people. I sense that there is a moment in people's lives where they just go, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to see this stuff. I'm done. I'm done. And they pack up their kids, they pack up their dog, they pack up their camper, and they go off in the wilderness somewhere, failing to realize that when they come back to civilization, it's still going to be here. So I'm sensing this. I'm sensing this idea of running away, trying to get away from this stuff. But then again, you folks out there have jobs. You guys, this is my day job, but you guys have jobs. And so you need to go back to them because, well, you got to keep a roof over your head, right? So I'm sensing a lot of this escapism coming up. You know what I mean? It's like, it does, it does seem that way, but appearances can be deceiving. Appearances can be deceiving. So parents, I want to again encourage you to pay attention to your children. I myself was a step-parent at one time, so I know. And above all that, we were once children ourselves, were we not? So think about that one. Hey, to you folks overseas in England, cheers. I hope you're doing well today. I hope you're doing wonderful. How's your queen? She is accepting payments from our taxpayers over here. I would think. No, actually it is quite known. Yes, the Queen of England takes our tax money. Did you know that? You didn't? Go follow the money. Connect the dots. Follow the money. Big news. A couple of big things happening. Before I get into the news here, I want to share some sad things. Chris Cornell from Audioslave and Soundgarden has passed away at the age of 52. More details to come. They didn't have details. He died in I believe, was in his home or something. I listened to Soundgarden and Audioslave. So, yes, big punch in the gut there. Okay. Chris Cornell, dead at 52. Another one of the biggest names in news, Roger Ailes, the founder of Fox News. Former Fox News CEO Roger Ailes has passed away at the age of 77. Big news there. Lots of other things as well. But let me move on. I want to say this before I get into this headline here, and that is, if we know, and here's a thought, if we know that certain things have to be a certain way, 1 + 1 = 2, A, B, C, D, E, F, on up. If we know that certain things have to be a certain way, why do we always forget or ignore those things? That leads me into this, because we should not ignore the obvious. We should not forget what is being perpetrated upon us by our own government. Police departments stocking up on riot gear in preparation for Summer of Rage. Demand for gas masks, rubber bullets, and protective armor soars. Paul Joseph Watson, InfoWars, 18th of May, 2017. Purchases of riot gear by police departments are surging across the country as civil unrest grows, with fears that major American cities could see more violence this summer, according to an investigation by Muck Rock, which is based on Freedom of Information request. Numerous different police departments have spent six-figure sums on such things as, quote, beanbag launchers, smoke grenades, pepper spray launchers, to plated body armor, helmets with protective visors and throat guards, and aluminum batons, unquote, in the last 5 years, and the total outlay is increasing. Take Denver, for example. Spending on riot gear by the Denver Police Department has increased every year since 2012, with a $32,409 outlay on quote-unquote less lethal weaponry in 2012, surging to $136,000 in 2016. While spending on quote-unquote protective gear spiked from $162,900 in 2012 to $282,000 in 2016. Quote, most of this equipment really has very few applications beyond large protests, unquote, comments Muck Rock's Curtis Waltman. Rubber bullets, gas masks, tear gas, and flashbang grenades are also in demand. As Infowars.com reported last year, manufacturers of riot control products saw an uptick in demand that coincided with the election campaign, including requests for surveillance drones and new systems that deploy water cannons to, quote, handle large crowds and demonstrators, unquote. There's a video associated with this. Put this on American Liberty Radio podcast. We are living at the brink, at the very edge, at the thread's width of a total and absolute meltdown of society in the United States of America. I don't know, and I'm just going to put this out here. I'm just going to lay this out here for everyone. Something has to be done. Wait a minute. A 20th century philosopher said this. Something can be done. And it's already happening in Los Angeles. Tim Donnelly reports for Breitbart, 18th of May, 2017, MS-13 decapitated in, quote, largest gang raid in Los Angeles history, unquote. Law enforcement conducted 50 simultaneous pre-dawn raids. Federal and local law enforcement officers conducted 50 simultaneous raids in the pre-dawn hours Wednesday, taking down almost 24 high-ranking suspected leaders of the notoriously violent MS-13 gang, along with numerous Mexican mafia leaders, in what is being described as the, quote, largest gang raid in Los Angeles history, unquote. According to NBC News, local Los Angeles affiliate, the raids were, quote, the culmination of a 3-year investigation, unquote, in the words of the FBI's Deidre Fike. Led by the Los Angeles Metropolitan Task Force on Violent Gangs, the investigation began in June of 2014, targeting the most violent actors and most senior leaders within the violent community enterprise controlled by MS-13, along with their ties to the Mexican mafia. That is going on in this country. Because I read that, it says read more down below that. So I'm going to put this on American Liberty Radio Podcast for all you to read. I'm going to give you a full disclosure here, folks. And I did not know how naive I was 20 years ago when I said this, about 25 years ago. I literally sat in front of my mother and we were talking about the election. That was, I think Clinton was still president, and I think he was running for re-election. And I said, what we need is military in the streets of our cities to do away with these damn gang members. My mother looked at me and just kind of smiled. That was 25 years ago. Okay? I had no idea how stupid that statement truly was. Okay, I had no idea. Even though I'm a very well-educated individual, I got caught up. Now get this. I got caught up in the hype, in the manipulation of the media at that time. And here's why. Here's what I want to talk about, and here's why I want to lead this into something else. Over time, the system, the government, the governmental indoctrination institutes understand that we who think outside of the box can find their flaws and faults and their vulnerabilities, and we will exploit that to the benefit of the American people. They understand this. They do everything they can to say, oh, they found us out over here, let's change our narrative over here and let's talk about that and distract them over into this area so that we can fix this part over here and then swing them back into thinking like we want them to. So this is what they do, and this is what I got caught up in, and I didn't know this until about 98, 99, somewhere around. Actually, tell you the truth, it was right after Monica Lewinsky's scandal. So I started looking at that and how he looked in the camera and said, I did not have sex with that woman. Yeah, shut up, Bill. We know you did. So we began, my friends and I, began to look at all this stuff, began to examine all this stuff, began to really tighten our view of what was going on. And we understood that what we wanted was far beyond what the system wanted us to have. So we began to examine that. We began to put ourselves in a position of saying, okay, now we have to really put together our thoughts, put together our resources, and really dig through everything and examine everything from just a basic level. Basically what we did was we took what we knew and we just set it aside for a while, but we started chipping away at some of it. All of it was important, but we started chipping away at it. And we thought, oh, we missed this. Well, how did we miss this? Then we found out, oh, I see. They distracted us by Monica Lewinsky, yada, yada, yada. How did we miss this? And we began to look at the things in a whole different light. And that was about the same time, probably around 98, 99, around in there. Around 2000, it was at that, Y2K scare that I began to hear somebody on the internet. I had the internet. I didn't get the internet until about 1995, 96. So about 2001, 2002, around in there, I started hearing in 2000 about this person and started really, I was doing other things. I was working, I was doing theater, I was doing, other things. And I heard about this man by the name of Alex Jones. I began to listen to him. I began to listen to Art Bell. And then when Art Bell left, I began to listen to George Norrie, and I began to listen to other people, and I started thinking to myself, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in the way that I think. So I began to look at that, and I began to look at everything that he was talking about, and I began to look at the late William Cooper, and I began to look at all this stuff, and I began to hear, get this, I began to hear the things that I already knew that people were confirming and clarifying and verifying were true of the stuff I remember investigating and researching back when Carter was president. I began to see all this. And what came out of that was a larger picture. What came out of that was a larger picture. Not just the little puzzle pieces that I was putting in. I began to see a larger picture. I began to hear the words secret society. I began to hear the words Freemason. I began to hear the words Illuminati. And then I began to hear about Bohemian Grove and Bilderberg and all of these other things. And that whole larger picture began to grow. All the information from when Carter was president up until about 2009, 10, around in there, 8, 9, 10, really came into play, and I looked at it and went, everything I've known since Carter was president, since Reagan, since Bush, since Clinton, since Bush, since Obama has been absolutely 100% correct and accurate and true and factual. And guess who was at the quote-unquote tip of the spear? That would be Alex Jones. I began to put all the puzzle pieces together, and it led up to knowing and realizing that I was right all along. And I also had detractors. I also had people telling me it wasn't true. And I also had people telling me for years, oh, you got to stop thinking about that. Just live your life and just enjoy. Well, I do. I'm grateful. Every day I wake up and put my feet on the floor and I give a big thumbs up to the big man upstairs. It's like, yeah, hey, I may not be the most perfect man in the world, but you woke me up. Good enough for me. I wipe the slate clean. I add a few things that I didn't get done yesterday, and I move on. That's how I live my life. Very simply, very passionately, very direct, very honest, very accurately, and very focused on getting out the truth with the facts. That's what American Liberty Radio Network is. Truth, facts, no BS, period. That's it. So when I look back at my naive days 20 some odd years ago, and I look at where I'm at now, I'm going, damn, I did pretty damn good. I sifted through all that bull crap and realized that we have a bigger problem in this country. And it's not your neighbor who thinks you're a conspiracy theorist. Because they're also in the crosshairs of the New World Order. But chances are that when the chips are down, they're going to go play along with them. But you aren't. Defeating the deep state coup d'etat, counterintelligence step 1, change the subject. Here's how Trump can force his enemies on the defensive. Jerome Corsi, 18th of May, 2017, Infowars.com. The coup d'etat being planned, or the coup d'etat plan being implemented by New World Order elements within the deep state in concert with the corporate-controlled mainstream media depends on successfully perpetrating the disinformation, quote-unquote, Russian collusion, big lie as the pretext upon which to impeach President Trump this year. President Trump's counterintelligence step number one is a function of the President Trump's power as U.S. chief executive to change the subject, forcing the deep state and the mainstream media to focus their time, attention, and message not on the Russian collusion meme, but on the theme of President Trump's choosing. Never forget, among the massive powers of the presidency under the Constitution, the president in foreign affairs is commander-in-chief, and in domestic affairs is the counterpart of chief executive officer. On Wednesday evening, the FBI Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein has appointed former FBI Director Robert Mueller to serve as a special counsel to oversee the Russian collusion meme. Mueller is a professional appointed FBI director in 2001 by President George W. Bush, who steered FBI through 9/11, shifted the FBI from a bank-robbing investigative agency to develop counterterrorism abilities. At President Obama's request, Mueller stayed on as FBI director for 2 years after his 10-year term, resigning in 2013. Mueller is a career prosecutor, a Marine Corps veteran of the Vietnam War, who is widely respected in Washington as a career prosecutor. Appointing Mueller as a special counsel takes the Russian collusion drumbeat out of the hands of the deep state and MSM seeking to impeach Trump, shifting the entire investigation out of the domain of partisan politics into the humdrum reality of a criminal investigation in which the wheels of justice can be expected to grind exceedingly slow. Had President Trump opposed the appointment of a special counsel, the deep state and MSN would have taken the decision as an admission of guilt and excuse to beat the impeachment drum louder, seeking to bring a House of Representatives impeachment investigation against President Bush to fruition this year. While Mueller may reach a conclusion this year, there is no time limit placed on his special counsel investigation, nor is there any restriction from Mueller examining whether the Democrats, including Hillary Clinton and John Podesta, were the politicians actually colluding with the Russians during the 2016 campaign. The deep state and MSM just got bushwhacked by a skillful, quote, change the subject, unquote, move engineered by President Trump's White House. To understand how effective changing the subject can be, consider North Korea, a developing nuclear threat where President Trump has positioned military forces for a potential military strike. To counter the North Korean nuclear weapons threat, President Trump has dispatched the U.S. Navy aircraft carrier Carl Vinson to stay in waters near the Korean peninsula indefinitely, given North Korea's most recent test of a Hwasong-12 ballistic missile capable of carrying a nuclear weapon that reached a peak altitude of more than 1,300 miles before landing 480 miles away. To protect South Korea, President Trump has deployed to South Korea a military defense battery operating the Terminal High Altitude Defense System, or known as THAAD. It is important, I'm just highlighting here, it is important President Trump's actions is limited to attacking North Korea's nuclear weapons capability, falling short of a land war invasion of North Korea launched by U.S. troops. To avoid a wag the dog syndrome, President Trump must explain to the American people the threat is real and the need for immediate military action was compelling, fully within the president's constitutional authority under Article 2 of the Constitution. There's a lot more to this, folks. I will put this up on American Liberty Radio Podcast. I want to ask all of you a question. A real simple question, real just direct, actually. A direct, simple question, and that is, why do people believe anything from the MSN? Why do people believe anything from the mainstream propaganda media? Why do people believe it? Why? Real simple question. Why? Breitbart, 18th May 2017, Trump under siege. More than 60% of NSC employees placed by Obama. The source said there are, quote-unquote, whole departments at the NSC with only one Trump appointee. Calls are growing for President Trump to clean house at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue after a series of leaks aimed at embarrassing and undermining the president sprung from the White House this week. A White House source estimates more than 60% of the employees at the National Security Council are not Trump administration appointees, but career officials who were appointed to the White House from other agencies under the Obama administration. The source said there are whole departments at the NSC with only one Trump appointee. Quote, I think the lesson here is that these things are going to continue to happen until the Trump White House does a serious house cleaning, unquote, said Fred Flitz, of a former CIA and Bush administration official. Quote, now under civil service rules, it's difficult to fire them, and I'm not sure they should be fired, but they can be reassigned. And people who are going to promote the president's policy rather than undermine them, he needs to put these people in place, unquote, he added. There's says read more right after that, so please read more. It's always good to understand what is going on around our nation. Always, 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 always good. But right now, I was going to take a break, and I shall be back in 3.5 minutes. This is American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com. Broadcasting from FEMA Region 8, sharing the truth one fact at a time, without all the BS. This is the American Liberty Radio Network.
The people of the world are now seeing what the globalists have always intended. They are engaged in a campaign to rid the world of 90% of humanity. They are well on their way of achieving this. But, with the corrupt mainstream media aligning themselves with such diabolical philosophies, the globalists are now being exposed and the people are now seeing them for who they truly are. Thanks for the most part to the independent media revealing the connection of the mainstream media to globalists like George Soros and others who invest and spread disinformation.
Don't say you haven't been warned. Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker. DistortedReality.podbean.com and Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker on American Liberty Radio Network. Sharing the truth one fact at a time, without all the BS. American Liberty Radio Network. AmericanLibertyRadio.com.
There's a show that's not afraid to ask the questions no one else will ask. Not afraid to say
what no one else will say.
Friday nights at 7 p.m. Listen to Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie, where no topic is off limits. Conspiracy theories, paranormal activities, hoaxes, the unexplained. It's what we talk about. Question everything. Trust no one. Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie. Friday at 7 p.m. on the KCOR Digital Radio Network out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hello, everybody. This is Brian Lang with Live Truth Radio and TV. You're listening to Wayne S. Pierce with American Liberty Radio.
Hey, folks, how you doing? How you doing? This is the American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com. This is the 18th of May, 2017. Hey, if you got any, I want to open up the day and just say hello to everybody overseas, to everybody that is listening to me over in other countries. Thank you very much for taking time out to listen to this United States of American citizen talk to you about what's happening in our country. Also, a little shameless self-promotion here. If you have any voiceover needs, any ads you want read, anything you want me to record for you, hey, I get paid for that. So, just let me know. I'm able to do it. I'm for hire, okay? So, let me know. American Liberty Radio at USA.com. American Liberty Radio at USA.com. Send all your correspondence to there. Anything you want to ask, any questions you have, just ask me. That's what you got to do. If I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. I mean, I'll try my best to find an answer for you. But if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. So anyway, I want to get on with the show here. I got a lot to talk about today on the 18th of May, 2017. I got a lot of stuff to do outside of the studio. So I'm going to try to make this short and sweet. So we will go from there. Former DOJ spokesman. This is coming from a former DOJ spokesman. Comey is trying to take down Trump. Comey may have preemptively constructed an obstruction of justice case against Trump. Ted Goodman, Daily Caller, 18th May 2017. Former FBI director, James Comey may have been building a legal case against President Donald Trump well before the president fired him on May 9th, according to a former Department of Justice spokesperson. Matthew Miller, who served as the DOJ's director of the Office of Public Affairs under former Attorney General Eric Holder, suggested that Comey may have been building an obstruction of justice case against the president. In an interview with Washington Post, Miller's suggestion carries weight not just because of his extensive background at DOJ and in government, but also because he predicted that Comey left a paper trail of his interactions with Trump. Miller sent the following tweet 5 days before the New York Times reported that Comey wrote a memo indicating, I was going to say indicting, but indicating the president had asked him to end an investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. There's a video, and it says read more. So I'm going to put this up on American Liberty Radio podcast for all you folks to take a look at. Gotta ask a question here. I have to ask. Is anybody getting censored on Facebook? Interesting. Anybody getting censored on Facebook? Nick Tucker at Distorted Reality says he's gotten censored quite a bit on Facebook. His numbers are down. This is why we understand that we are being censored. That's why he jumped ship and went over to gab.ai. So did I. You can find me there at American Liberty Radio. You can find Nick Tucker there at Distorted Reality N as in Nick, T as in Tucker on gab.ai. That's Distorted Reality NT over on gab.ai. You can find me there as well at American Liberty Radio. Here's something else from Dennis, former Representative Dennis Kucinich, a Democrat of Ohio, said Americans must, this is what he says, Americans must put party politics aside and acknowledge that the federal government is, quote, under attack from within, unquote. Kucinich said that the deep state within the bureaucracy is trying to, quote, destroy Donald Trump's presidency, unquote. He said there is a, quote, unquote, politicization, there we go, whatever, you know the word, of intentionally nonpartisan agencies that has resulted in leaks to the press and a, quote, threat to our republic, unquote. Kucinich called the damaging leaks against President Trump a, quote, clear and present danger, unquote, to the American way of life. He called on the anonymous leakers to have the courage to name themselves. Quote, our first allegiance is to our country, unquote. He added, quote, our country itself is under attack from within, unquote. Mike Huckabee credited Kucinich with ignoring the majority of his fellow Democrats and speaking out on the crisis in a nonpartisan way. There's a video, putting that up on American Liberty Radio podcast. American Liberty Radio Network is still available on Facebook. I have no idea why. I went in about a month or two ago and deleted the page. Apparently it's still there. So apparently Facebook likes the fact that my page is up there. So I don't know. So the Trump army has taken the names of the treasonous Republicans that are suggesting Trump should be impeached. Well, it's about damn time. That's what I say. Now that they smell blood, a number of treasonous Republicans are openly taking or talking of impeaching Donald Trump, even though there is no evidence that he has committed any crimes. Michael Snyder, end of theamericandream.com, 18th May 2017. Give all credit to where I'm getting this information from, folks. I'm putting it up on American Liberty Radio podcast. All the links are there. All the information is there. Never before has a president had so many members of his own party so eager to stick the knife in his back. Now that they smell blood, a number of treasonous Republicans are openly talking of impeaching Donald Trump, even though there is no evidence that he has committed any crimes. A New York Times article that reported that a memo exists in which FBI Director James Comey documented conversation between himself and President Trump, during which he was encouraged, quote, to end the investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, unquote, sent shockwaves through Washington on Wednesday. Almost immediately, members of both parties began suggesting that Trump could be impeached. Could be. Not necessarily can be. Could be. But, as Michael Snyder says here, I detailed in another article earlier today, the elements of obstruction of justice simply are not there, even if everything that Comey is claiming is true. It may have been inappropriate for Trump to have such a discussion with Comey, but no laws were broken. But of course, those that want to destroy Trump think that this is their golden opportunity. It has just been a matter of hours since we've learned about Comey's memo, and Democratic strategists are already conducting opinion polls to see if pushing for impeachment would be a good move. And Democratic Congressman Al Green has already delivered a, quote, fiery speech, unquote, on the House floor in which he called for Trump to be impeached. I'm putting that on American Liberty Radio podcast. I don't know what you folks think about this whole idea of impeaching someone without ever having any evidence whatsoever that he broke the law. But I'm telling you right now, anybody who is even on the... If those Democrats and Republicans are in the dugout on this political ball field, get out into the actual game and actually play a decent game, I think we would have a decent government. But unfortunately, not one of those Democrats or Republicans are able to even pick up the damn ball. I'm done with the bullcrap from each bullpen. I'm done. These political pitchers have absolutely no idea what the hell they're doing, and every damn thing they do is a curveball, and they walk every single batter. You like that baseball metaphor? I love that baseball metaphor. Do you? I love it. It's great. In other words, folks, metaphor aside, not one of these politicians know what the hell they're doing, Democrat or Republican. There are a small faction of Democrats and Republicans. I'm talking small. Out of 535, I'm talking probably less than 50 on both sides combined, that literally are looking at the rest of their colleagues and going, are you freaking idiots? You know? Yeah. Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein stabs Trump in the back, basks in media praise. Let it come out. Let it all come out. Destroy these bastards who are trying to destroy you in America. Let me read this. This is from Chris Menahan over at informationliberation.com. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein did the deep state's bidding on Wednesday by appointing a special prosecutor to derail Donald Trump's presidency. Without even so much as contacting the White House, Rosenstein appointed former FBI Director Robert Mueller as special counsel to investigate phony Russian influence in the 2016 presidential election. This is common knowledge, folks. To catalog the list of abuses the FBI took part in under his leadership is impossible. This is Mueller, who headed up the FBI from September 4th, 2001 to September 4th, 2013. But he oversaw hundreds, if not thousands, of entrapment cases, as well as the exoneration of the FBI in every shooting they've ever been involved in. He also pushed tech companies to install back doors for the U.S. for the U.S. government to get into all their software. Let me say that again, folks, because this is crucial. Mueller pushed tech companies to install back doors for the U.S. government into all their software. He pushed these companies to do this. We've seen how great that worked out with this latest massive ransomware hack. Of course, none of this matters to Rosenstein. He's being praised by the New York Times and the Washington Post, and in turn every other leftist publication, all of whom merely follow their lead. Let me put this on American Liberty Radio podcasts on Facebook. It is important that we know who the players are, folks. It's very, very important that we know who the players are. We need to know their strategy. We need to understand at what point they begin to undermine the principles of peace, freedom, liberty, and security in this nation. I don't care if they're a politician working in Washington, D.C., or your local freaking city council member. We need to know who these people are that side with the opposing forces against the U.S. citizens. We need to know who they are. I need to know who they are so that I can tell you who they are, or at least give you some information as to where to go look. So I encourage people to contact me. American Liberty Radio at USA.com. American Liberty Radio at USA.com. Now, I don't know. I don't quite know at what level the opposition seems to be at this point. What I know is their goal is to get rid of every single patriot in the United States of America, whether it's the mother homeschooling her children or the military law enforcement personnel that are out in this country and other countries taking care of business. By the way, a little side note to that. All your military in the United States of America is fighting civil wars of other countries, which, of course, these other countries we're in can handle their own civil wars. But no, the military-industrial complex makes more money with soldiers going over to other countries fighting battles we shouldn't be in so that they can build up their financial coffers to give orders to those that are here to take care of business here. And I'm not talking about that in a positive way. Continuing with this side note, over 80% of the law enforcement and military personnel of the United States government have said that if they were given orders to take the weapons away from the American people, they would defy that order and give the big FU to the federal government. I'm glad that there are people out there like that, because those police officers in those uniforms, those sheriff, those highway patrol, those state police in uniform, they're on the front lines to your protection. But you, in your local communities, are the front line for your neighborhood to protect you, your family, and them from domestic enemies. So, think about how you support the military and law enforcement in this country. But first ask yourself, where are they? Good question, huh? Where are they? Where do you stand on support of your law enforcement and military in this country? Where is it? Where do you stand? I don't, and this is just me, just from my perspective, I don't understand why people will always be in opposition to doing what is right, to more conservative thoughts and actions, curbing spending, helping people get, from one place to the next in their lives. In other words, why aren't, a little side thought here, why aren't there grants for people that want to start a business instead of having people charge you to give you money, to help your business when you already have a business? That's ridiculous. That's just absolutely ridiculous to me. Switching gears, new startling Seth Rich murder case info suggests D.C. police DNC collusion. Murdered D.C. staffers, missing computer believed to contain WikiLeaks communications. This is from yesterday, 17th of May, 2017. Shepard Embellis and Adon Salazar, Infowars.com. A high-ranking representative of the Democratic National Committee allegedly questioned why a private investigator was, quote-unquote, snooping into the DNC, the death of DNC staffer Seth Rich. Detective Rod Wheeler, who's been looking into the unsolved murder, told Sean Hannity Tuesday that shortly after being hired to investigate, a high-ranking DNC official called the Rich family inquiring about his, quote-unquote, snooping. Okay? I don't know, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to make this very, very clear, because it's to me, it's very important that we understand what the government is doing. I don't give one rip whatsoever about someone else's opinion about my opinion, because I just never have. I never have. But this whole Seth Rich thing, this isn't a distraction at all, to tell you the truth. This is more like a political side note. I say political because it does have something to do with Washington, D.C., due to the fact that he was a DNC staffer. I just think now, and this just me, just me, this is just, as we look at this whole thing, as we examine this whole thing, this DNC staffer seemed to have had information. But that doesn't matter, apparently, because now whoops. Darn. Video likes to start all on its own, but you know how it is. We look at things like this. DNC staffer murdered. For what? That's the big question. That's the big question. That's the big question. Why is it that we are told, and here's my point, why are we told that this has happened, and why are other people going, why are they snooping? Well, let me just open this up into a grander view and not be so specific with this Seth Rich murder. When somebody starts to ask you questions, is it not your responsibility to consider answering this person? Is it not your own free will to at least consider answering a person when they ask you a question? So in this case, with the Seth Green thing, getting back to that, when all is said and done, what's the answer? When all is said and done, what is the answer? Seriously. Seriously. Continuing on with the article at Infowars.com with the title of New Startling Seth Green Murder Case Info Suggests D.C. Police DNC Collusion. It is quoted here. There's a quote here that says, here's one other thing that is going to be startling. I'm just saying, and apparently this is from the private detective. From the, Detective Rod Wheeler. He says, here's one other thing that is going to be startling. I'm just going to say this right now. I reached out to the police department way back in March when the family first hired me, to get involved. I didn't hear anything from the police department for 2 to 3 days. Guess what? I learned yesterday from the family of Seth Green, the police department did not call me back because someone, a high-ranking official at the DNC, check this out, a high-ranking official at the DNC, when I called the police department, they got that information, called the Rich family, wanting to know why I was snooping around, unquote. That's what Detective Rod Wheeler said to Sean Hannity. Okay. Now, I want you to know right now that what I've been searching for years, what I've been investigating for years, what I have been researching for years, culminates in the verification and all of that. The verification and clarification of everything that I've learned since 1977, 78 has been absolutely proven correct by everything from Mark Levin, Michael Savage, Alex Jones, Sean Hannity now. Everything has been verified, clarified, and is accurate and factual. Folks, I am not a conspiracy theorist. So shut your big damn mouth about that, because I have the truth without all the BS and the facts that go along with it. So think about that one, folks, because you too can go out and find all this stuff as well. Start reading between the lines and listening to these morons. I'll be back right after this.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law. Such is a world worthy of our struggle and worthy of our children's future.
You want the truth? You want the facts? Go to AmericanLibertyRadio.com, sharing the truth one fact at a time, without all the BS. American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com. Secret societies, Freemasons, the Illuminati, Bohemian Grove. From history to the present day, there are those behind the scenes in the shadow government that are controlling everything. Listen to Crazy Wolf Radio with your host, Robert Bruce, who will shed light in a dark world. Crazy Wolf Radio with your host, Robert Bruce, on Crazy Wolf Media. Go to www.crazywolfmedia.com.
There is a storm on the horizon, a time of hardship and pain. This battle has been won, but the war against the machines rages on. Skynet's global network remains strong, but we will not quit until all of it is destroyed. This is John Connor. There is no fate but what we make.
Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!"
American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com. Hey folks, how you doing? This is American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com. Welcome back to the last segment of the show. So, I hope you're having a good day. It's the 18th of May, 2017. How are you? You doing good? Hey, if you got any questions, comments, concerns, want to tell me to piss off? Some people have. Email me at AmericanLibertyRadio@USA.com. American Liberty Radio at USA.com. I have a bunch of things to get into in this last segment, but I will hopefully keep it short. You remember hearing the name of Sheriff David Clark? Big news today. Sheriff David Clark joins Trump's DHS as Assistant Secretary. Conservative superstar gets key role in fight against globalism. Nationally renowned law enforcement officials, Sheriff David Clark will be joining the Trump administration as an assistant secretary in the Department of Homeland Security. Clark made the announcement on the Vicki McKenna Show, a conservative talk radio program out of Wisconsin. Clark says he'll be a multi-agency and local law enforcement liaison who hopes to fill the gaps between local law enforcement needs and local and federal intel and the federal government. To listen to McKenna's full interview with Clark, there's a link there. InfoWars and Sheriff Clark have been fighting against globalism for years. Below is an interview from 2013 where Alex Jones and Sheriff Clark discuss the increasingly tense political climate in America. And guess what, folks? That's going to go up on American Liberty Radio Podcast. For all of you. America is a whole continent. We have 4 countries on this continent. Okay, 4. We have Canada, we have the United States, we have Mexico, and we have South America. Yes, it's all one continent, folks. It's all one big giant island, okay? With several countries with borders. Well, apparently the southern border in America goes clear down to El Salvador. I did not know that. But according to certain things, that certain reports have really said that. The border of the United States of America goes down to El Salvador. But that's not true. Because when you look at the whole continent, you've got a lot of countries who border on each other, whose borders are basically as porous as the southern border of the United States. But here's a difference. I mentioned South America, didn't I? Here's a difference between the United States of America and our more conservative ways. Sarcasm does ooze from my lips. Here's the difference between South America and the United States of America. At the southern border of Mexico and the northern border of South America, from some reports, when people leave South America and jump the border into Mexico, yeah, they get shot. That's what I hear. I honestly don't have any information or evidence to prove that. I'm just saying this is what I'm hearing. Our southern border is as porous as a freaking sponge. And that's kind of ironic because the southern border is a sponge for everybody from every other country to come to. If you look at the ways that people come into this country from other countries, normally they would just, do the right thing, go to the consulate, go to the, administration and all that, and get applications for citizenship for the United States. Hey, I'll shake your hand and buy you coffee. But when you look at the illegal human trafficking trade in the world, guess where they all go? Destination Mexico, further destination the United States of America, under false pretenses with blatantly fake documents. Yeah. That's the difference between the United States and South America and Mexico. Everybody, there's been talk about, President Trump shared some information with the Russian diplomat, and he's not supposed to do that. That's unconstitutional, blah, 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 blah. John Griffin contributed to Infowars.com, 17th of May, 2017. Flashback, Truman shared secret troop movements with Soviet Russia during Korean War. Democrats have a talent of conjuring up quote-unquote fake national security scandals after losing elections to Republicans. Democrats should stop throwing stones in glass houses where it concerns presidents sharing classified intelligence. President Harry Truman, a Democrat, shared American troop movements with the Soviets and the Chinese during the Korean War, an action bordering on, quote, giving aid and comfort, unquote, to enemies of the United States, if not outright betrayal. General Lin Plow, commander of Chinese forces in Korea, would later comment, quote, I never would have made the attack and risked my men and my military reputation if I had been assured that Washington would restrain General Douglas MacArthur, unquote. Korea was the first war in which the U.S. soldiers were placed under foreign command, and the results were disastrous. The United Nations oversaw all U.S. and allied troops in Korea, and every military decision undertaken by U.S. forces had to be approved by the UN Military Staff Committee, which was run by representatives from the Soviet Union. As can be expected, the Russians abused the committee in order to assist Communist China during the conflict. Soviet Lieutenant General Alexandre Vasilev, there we go, sorry, Alex, who ran the United Nations Military Staff Committee from 1947 to January of 1950, took, quote, a leave of absence from his United Nations job, unquote, to supervise Chinese command at the 38th parallel. The Department of Defense press release outlined the role of him of the Soviet Lieutenant General in Korea. During what Truman disingenuously referred to as a police action, Vasilev received top secret information from U.S. strategy about U.S. strategy and the planned troop movements of all UN forces in Korea. Americans died in large numbers because of Truman's great betrayal. The only recourse left to General Douglas MacArthur, Supreme Allied Commander of all personnel in Korea, was insubordination. Quote, This is what MacArthur later said. Quote, I realized for the first time that I had actually been denied the use of my full military power to safeguard the lives of my soldiers and the safety of my army. To me, it clearly foreshadowed a future tragic situation in Korea and left me with a sense of inexpressible shock, unquote. MacArthur stated, quote, Manchuria and Siberia were sanctuaries of inviolate protection for all enemy forces. I was denied the right by a Soviet general located in the United Nations to bomb the hydroelectric plants along the Yalu River, unquote. Quote, most incomprehensible of all was the refusal to let me bomb the important supply center at Rasin was a depot to which the Soviet Union forwarded supplies from Vladivostok for the North Korean army. I felt step-by-step weapons were taken away from us, unquote. That is going up on American Liberty Radio podcast. So, did President Trump's discussion with the diplomat violate any rules, any laws, anything that could be considered to be betrayal of the American people? Or is it just swept under the rug? Let me go off into this direction because I want to, because it's important to show you what the mainstream propagandist media is telling you. CNN host has meltdown on air. Quote, you cannot attack the stellar reporters of CNN, unquote. Quote, do not even start with me that you're just going to attack, quote unquote, sources, unquote. CNN anchor Kate Bolduan, is that what it is? Sorry, Kate. Had a meltdown on live TV on Tuesday after one of her guests questioned the validity of CNN's anonymous sources. Navy SEAL Carl Higble, a supporter of Donald Trump, said CNN's anonymous sources reporting on last week's Trump-Russia meeting should come forward and name themselves if they want their anonymous accusations to be taken seriously. Quote, they're hiding behind this anonymity, unquote. Higble said, or Higble? I don't know. Sorry, Carl. In response to 33-year-old Baldwin screamed in response, oh, please, oh, please. Quote, don't even start with me that you're just going to attack sources. That's ridiculous, unquote. Baldwin said, quote, you cannot attack the stellar reporters of CNN who have their sources and would protect their sources, unquote. Quote, the stellar reporters of CNN, Higble said, quote, that I am going to attack right now and say, guess what? I don't believe them because they're staying anonymous, unquote. He said, quote, if they stand behind the story, come out and face the camera, unquote. A confused Baldwin who responded, all I've been doing is face the camera, Carl, unquote. Higble said, drawing out a large pause on Baldwin's part, said, the people who are in that room, unquote. Quote, we have anonymous sources, Baldwin said. We protect them for real reasons so the information that is important to the public can get out, unquote. CNN contributor Keith Boykin, who was sitting right next to Higble, stopped the interview and told Higble, you're embarrassing yourself. That's a quote. Quote, you should not be doing this. You're a better person than this. I am ashamed of you, unquote. Baldwin sat silently during Boykin's embarrassing lecture. Yeah, get this, folks. Get this. Hold on. Get this. Hang on. Do your shorts. Kate Baldwin is married to Michael David Gershenson, who is a managing director at the Carlyle Group. Go look that one up. A private equity firm which many say embodies the quote-unquote revolving door corruption that defines Washington, D.C. She's married to a lobbyist, folks. Private equity firm. No. Let's just translate that into lobbyist. Private equity firm. Private, no one knows. Equity, money, firm. Sounds like a lobbyist group to me. The Carlyle Group is definitely a lobbyist group. That's just the way it is. Period. End of sentence. Done. I don't care what you say. I'm putting this on American Liberty Radio Network on the podcast page. I find it incredibly odd that these people in the mainstream propagandist media, I'm truly amazed that these people actually have brains enough. The minute percentage of their brain actually works. These mainstream propagandist media personalities have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. You can do everything you want. You can suggest anything you want. You can blatantly put it out there in front of these people, and they'll sit there and tell you that you're wrong. Well, isn't that a trip? Isn't that just so confusing? Makes you sit there going, what the fuck? And you would just go on from there. Former prosecutors, former defense attorneys, former lobbyists or current lobbyists, former special interest personnel or current special interest personnel are all in these mainstream propagandist media outlets, including, rest in peace, Mr. Ailes, Fox News. One of them, a closeted liberal, who shall remain nameless, Megyn Kelly, went over to another left-wing organization called the National Broadcasting Center. What is that? NBC? Yeah, went over to NBC. Oh, National Broadcasting Company. Sorry. Had a brain fart there. Let me drive this point home. Listen to Sean Hannity. Just listen to Sean Hannity. Listen to him. Listen to Michael Savage. Listen to Mark Levin. Listen to Alex Jones. Listen to Rush Limbaugh. Listen to Brian Lang and Nick Tucker and myself, because we know what the hell we're talking about in these mainstream propagandist media personalities that are getting paid millions of dollars a year are nothing more than left-wing New World Order puppets who are reading the script from the teleprompter. They're nothing but biological androids being propped up to disseminate the disinformation that you so enjoy from your mainstream propaganda media. Now, I'm going to put it this way, folks, if you cannot and will not accept the truth or facts of what is going on behind the curtain, and if you cannot accept who is pushing the buttons and pulling the handles, and if you cannot accept the corruption out of Washington, D.C., and if you cannot accept the collusion between the DNC and the propagandist media, the mainstream propagandist media, and if you cannot accept the fact that the Democrats are now pushing for a complete overthrow of the United States of America under this current presidential regime, I use that term loosely, by the way. If you cannot accept the truth or facts that both parties are in collusion with the New World Order and the elites and the Soros and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds to overthrow the very basic principles of the United States of America, the constitutional republic that we have, and the principles of peace, freedom, liberty, and security of this nation. If you cannot accept any of that, then you are dumber than a box of rocks, and I'm insulting a box of rocks. So, shall we go on? Shall we? Shall we venture off into the darkness of the Democratic Party and show you exactly who is controlling things? I think you all know who's behind the Democratic Party. I think you know who the one person, or the group of people led by one person, who that person is. I think you already know who the person is that is driving the mammoth truck into the crowd of Washington, D.C. to destroy the very fabric of this nation. I remember in 2008 there was a press conference. And when the press conference was over, not really a press conference, but a get-together with Medvedev, somebody had a hot mic. And President Obama said, after the re-election, I'll have more room to do what I want. That wasn't a quote. That was something in gist that he said. I mean, that basically is what he said. But look, he sided with Marxists, he sided with communists, he sided with, and even President Vladimir Putin didn't like Obama. Neither did Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, because all President Obama was concerned about was pleasing his controllers, his handlers. And he's doing the same thing now by inserting himself into the political arena from an outsider point of view. When I say outsider, he's not within the confines of the political arena of Washington, D.C. anymore, but he still has influence in some places. And of course, this is what we see happening. At the very basic level, the Democratic Party is nothing more, and the Republican Party are nothing more than parties with two factions owned and operated by the elites of the world, including those we all know and all too well: George Soros, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, other banking cartel members, other corporate cartel members. And we know these people. And the one person on the outside is trying to upend this current president. That would be the former president, Barack Obama, and his minions, and the people that control him. This is what's happening, folks. Connect the dots, follow the money. Look at who the DNC is actually controlled by. Look at who the Democratic Party is actually controlled by, and you'll have your answer. In the meantime, folks, I got to get out of here. I got things to do. I'll come back into the studio later today and probably record something. Don't know yet. I'll probably record a short podcast. I don't know yet. I got stuff to do. So I will talk to you folks later. It's always fun to come to you, and I enjoy your time that you spend here, and I enjoy speaking with you from FEMA Region 8 in the former United States of America. Talk to you folks later. This is American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com, American Liberty Radio on Spreaker.com. Sharing the truth one fact at a time without all the BS.